Hey Sage, what's going on?
Hey Rebel, how we doing?
We're doing well. It is a good day. We're trying
It
to
is.
get a podcast in before we get hit with these storms here in Tennessee.
I already
So,
saw some lightning. It was good. I enjoyed it.
uh,
Who's
yeah.
this handsome man we got with us?
We have the amazing Douglas Terrell. How are you, Doug?
Hi guys, how you doing? Nice to meet you
Good.
both. Thanks for
Nice
having
to
me on.
meet you, Douglas. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. So, what do you have going on?
Me, I have I'm a professional actor here in New York, and I've been touring a play that I wrote about in around 2006 called The American Soldier, and it's based off of letters from veterans from the American Revolution all the way through our current wars of Iraq and Afghanistan. And I've been touring that for about obviously pre-COVID. I mean, COVID kind of knocked it down, but for probably since 2015, 14, I've been touring the play. It's been at the Kennedy Center a couple times, Library of Congress, off Broadway a couple times. Regionally, it's been to like 16 cities. And off of that, um, through the Q&As of after performing the play, it inspired me to write a TV series called Landing Home, which is currently streaming on Amazon. So that's for me. That's what I have going on besides 2 kids and a dog.
Right
That's
on.
enough to keep you busy right there.
Yeah. And I have a Vizsla, so I don't know if anybody knows what a Vizsla is, but they're high energy.
Oh, okay.
They're
I
pouring.
vaguely remember one was. You have a picture?
Yeah,
No, I don't know
they're
what that.
beautiful,
Oh,
beautiful animals, but man, they require a lot of attention.
Yeah.
right. Um, I have Landing Home in my queue. I purposefully didn't watch it because for those people who haven't seen it that are gonna see this show, I don't want to. I'm a blow it, and so I don't want to give things away. I did see the trailer, and I have to say, it was gripping. It was uh, it was powerful. Um, uh, so I'm basically going to arm myself with some tissues and some some real appreciation for some folks when I sit down to watch it. Um, Aside from that, the production quality looked fantastic, and what as far as like from you know being an actor and a producer and director and all that, um, the taking it from someone else's stories to making a story and bringing people in, that must have been like a and still currently an amazing journey so far. I mean,
Yeah, yeah. No, I mean it's been really gratifying. I mean, I'm currently so on the play. I'm actually trying to add 2 characters to it. I'm trying to add the voice of a female combat vet, and so I've been interviewing female combat vets. I've interviewed 5, 6 amazing women, and they've shared their life experience in the military in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so I'm trying to distill it. So it's always challenging because you're always you want to keep what they share about their personal lives true, but at the same time you want to make sure you can convey it in a shorter period of time, truthfully, but also dramatically, because life, art, especially in the acting world, art is life condensed into 3 hours or an hour and a half or 30 minutes. So you only have, whatever the platform is, that is the parameters you have to distill this person's life and to kind of express it in a way that's really interesting because, you know, uh, veteran letters can be really boring. And they talk about a lot of boring stuff. And so you have to be able to find a way to take what is not really interesting and take what is interesting and kind of put all that together and find an arc and tell it together. So for the TV series, it was good because a lot of vets would reach out to me and they would write me letters. And after the play, I would do Q&As. We always do a Q&A after the play, which would start something very organically. People wanted to know, why did you write it? How did you get the material? Well, man, it's really accurate. Are you a veteran? And I'm not a veteran, by the way. And so I would share my story and I would share how I came across the material and why I put it together. And So then they would share their stories with me. And a lot of times, a lot of them would write letters to me. They would write me emails. They would write me Facebook messages. And so over, a period of, I started performing professionally probably in 2015, but I really had been workshopping and trying to put it together since almost 2008 or 2009. It's been so many years now that I've been doing it. I forgot when I really started it, because you start forgetting, But so I have a huge compilation of messages from veterans, basically stories. So the stories that I tell have inspired other stories to come to me, and that's good. It's also bad because sometimes you can get overwhelmed by the mass that is coming at you. It's just kind of like trying to pull a needle out of a haystack in a way. You've got so many stories, and which one do you pick? How do you pick it? How do you tell it? But it gave me enough resource for landing home to be able to tell what I wanted to try to express, which was that a lot of combat vets who saw my play were having a really hard time transitioning out of the military. And that, for the most part, that's what I'm trying to tell with Landing Home. I'm just trying to give a sincere, honest picture of what thank you for your service really means, and what coming home really means, and try to do it in 1 hour.
I think it's very misunderstood. I think a lot of people expect vets to come home and jump back into their lives like nothing they've seen, heard, or witnessed while they're on deployment, has happened. Just get back in, go to work, do your thing, focus, function. And I don't think that's real for many of the vets.
It's really hard. It's really hard. So the TV series is really an extension of the play, because the play has been very successful. So people would always say, you've got to turn this play into a movie. Well, I cover from the revolution all the way through Iraq and Afghanistan.
It's a big movie.
It's a big movie, and I haven't figured out how to tell that story. I have some ideas, and I'm putting pencil to paper, but I have not been able to really flush it out yet, but I'm getting closer. But so a couple people reached out to me. They're like, you really need to tell this story. So I said, well, why don't and when you see it, I don't want to give anything away, but you'll see the essence of my play come through the TV series. If you just know that my play tells the story of letters from veterans and family members from the revolution through Afghanistan, when you watch Landing Home, you will see that thread come through the TV series. I don't want to tell you how, but it comes through. And I thought, well, because one of the things that I learned in researching my play is that the struggles that a lot of vets have today are not new to veterans. They've been happening since, really since the revolution.
Very true.
And PTSD has been talked about from the days of Greek, from days of Shakespeare. So these are not new stories. So I said, let me put this struggle that a lot of vets are having, have always have, me place it on a modern day soldier, and let me give it to him. Right? And so we see it coming through him, and we see his struggles. But really what I'm trying to tell is it's an overall struggle that veterans have. A long-winded answer, I know, but.
I watched the entire series one night. I went on Amazon after I'd interacted with you, and I just bought the whole thing and sat down and watched it. And I was blown away. As the daughter of a U.S. Marine who is now buried at Arlington National Cemetery, I could find some common thread in there with things that I saw in my dad, in the way he dealt with people, in his experiences. And the main one, and I think it was in maybe your first episode, where Lucas is at the house, and it's the party, and everybody's talking to him, and it's like he's in a funnel to me, it felt like he was in a funnel and like all this stuff was happening outside and around him. And he was just like shutting himself off from all that noise that was going on around him and just not wanting to talk about what happened when he was on deployment. My dad never really spoke of anything that happened while he was in the military, other than a couple of funny stories.
When did he serve?
He was a Vietnam era veteran, but he did not go to Vietnam. So, yeah.
I have uncles that did, and for the most part, they don't discuss it. I've heard stories about when they first returned, how their PTSD and their trauma, how it kind of had to act out, and they were, I have one uncle who found his peace in religion. I have another uncle who found his peace in putting himself into creating business. And I have other uncles who, self-medicated themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, we're never bad people, but they had their, they had their ways of dealing with those demons. And I'm always very humbled by the presence of not just them, but anybody who's gone to, offer that kind of sacrifice.
Yeah, I mean, for me, one of the things that comes out of the play, and which I try to tell in the TV series, the problem with film and TV is that you never have enough time and you never have enough money to make it. That's always the overall. That is your limitation, telling stories on screen. So you do the best you can, but what from the play, what you try to get, and I believe it comes through as well. But the play ends on an uplift, and I don't know if the TV series ends that way. I try to leave.
I thought it did.
I tried to leave a glimmer of hope. I don't want to. I try not to also answer it for the audience. I try to kind of leave a glimmer of hope. But to me, it's the American story. It really is, from the revolution all the way through now. It's this incredible story. Americans are amazing. I've traveled a lot around the world, and the thing that I always find with Americans, being an American and being the son of immigrants, is that Americans are incredibly giving a nation and giving people, and they give so much. Whenever there's a storm or a hurricane or whatever, Americans are always at the front ones, on the front of the lines, trying to raise money, give money, send clothes.
And from those that have to those that don't.
Exactly.
Sure.
And that gets, obviously it's getting lost today, but when you watch the play and when you watch the series, you really see this nation of young men and women and families who are always stepping up to give up, to go and fight, to put their lives on hold for when their nation asks for them. Whether the cause for the war is justified, and you can argue from here until next year, going back and forth on every different war, in which if it was a just war and not war. But the point is that when the nation says, hey, we need you to go fight, there's always an abundance of young men and young women who are willing to go fight. And that to me says a lot about the grit and the character of America. And you definitely get that in the play. And I've been told that before. And I hope that people get that out of the TV series, because you are reminded that, these are American humans. We forget that they're just like, the guys and girls who go over there, they're just like us. They're no different. There is, many veterans told me, some vets have a problem when you say thank you for your service. And they said, if it comes sincerely, I'm cool with it if you say that. But if you're doing it out of self-pity or because you feel sorry for us, we don't want to do it. Our job is to be soldiers, and for some of us is to go fight, and we do. And for the most part, our goal is to do it to the best of our abilities or honor. We're just doing our job, right? And that's why we're going over there. So when you see, Landing Home, it reminds you that it's just a guy who goes over there does his job to the best of his ability. And when he comes back, he's just not prepared for what coming back is for. And we have a lot of them like Luke. Luke is you know, for better words, it's kind of like a general term. You know, he's the American Luke. You know, I tried to give him a really American simple name because I felt like those are usually the guys and girls who go over there and fight are really, you know, from small town Iowa, small town Ohio. They're the ones who go out there and fight and come back, and they're trying to figure out how to, you know, get their lives back together. And so
Right.
those are the through lines. But I really believe it's the American story. You know, it really, again, goes back to reminding you the grit of this nation. Why, you know, my dad was an Argentinian Jew, and why, as my dad used to say, you know, people are not swimming from Cuba into Russia, they're swimming into the United States. And he would always make that, you know, he passed away about 3 years ago, and a lot of my patriotism comes from my dad, but you know, he was, you know, typical immigrant of his generation. He was very thankful for what the nation gave him and his family.
Freedom, opportunity.
Yep.
Yeah. The place to be all that you could be.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know it sounds cliche, but it's really the truth. I mean, it's really what they came here for. And, you know, my dad had an 8th grade education, and, you know, he would say all the time, you know, there's no nation in this world that would give a guy with an 8th grade education the opportunities to provide for his family and send 2 kids off to college. He says, doesn't exist. So, I mean, it could be, I guess that could be a generalization, but, you know, from what I've seen, I think it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. I'm curious, the guy who played Lucas's dad.
Luke. Yeah, Luke's dad.
Luke, I'm sorry. I keep on okay. Anyway, um was was he really a Vietnam vet in real life?
No, so his name is Robert Kirk. He's been in a lot of stuff. I think the last film that I saw him in, he was in what was the movie they just did about Hoffa with De Niro and
The Irishman?
Yeah, The Irishman. He was in The Irishman. He was one of the Teamsters in The Irishman. He was actually a replacement. So the guy who I had, unfortunately, he passed away. There was an actor who I did a lot of shows with in New York and on stage. His name was James Broderick, just a beautiful man. And he was a Korean vet, and an amazing guy. But unfortunately, when we were getting into shooting, he had, he got cancer.
Oh.
He got really sick. He was really heavy on chemo, and he just wasn't able to make it. And so, unfortunately, he passed. But so I had to replace him literally the week before shooting. I was pushing for James to do it. I was doing everything I could. I was changing the script up. I was changing the shooting days up, but it just eventually he just realized that he wasn't there. And so so Robert stepped in and did a great job. But no, he's not a Vietnam vet. He's just a great actor.
I was curious. He played that really well. That was obviously that was really believable. If I'm asking you that question,
Yeah.
I was like, wow, this guy's been there.
Yeah.
You know, it really felt like he had been.
He's got a life. He's got a face that shows a lot of life on it.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that. I was really impressed with the series. I liked it. The farm that is in the series, is that really used for what it was used for in the series? And I'm trying not to give away the series because I'm really hoping our listeners will go and listen and go and watch it on.
Well, I haven't seen it yet either, so don't mess it up for me.
Right. I'm trying not to spoil it. You know, I'm a spoiler.
I won't spoil it, but so, you know, in doing the play again, the TV series really is an extension of the play. So because I've been doing the play so long, I've become friends with a lot of veteran therapists.
Yeah.
And a lot of equine and a lot of canine therapists. And so I've become really good friends with them. So not to spoil anything, but yeah, that is a real horse farm. And that is a real, she's actually a real therapist. We're very good friends. And she was generous to let me use it. But what I wanted to give away and what I was trying to share in there, that to the veterans who see it, you know, that there's more ways of coming home than just one.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different forms of therapy. The main thing is, is to get help. So, but
Yeah,
that's all
I
I'll
have
share.
another veteran friend who I, of course, raved about the series to him, and I don't know if he will watch it, but I'm going to put him on the spot right here for the world and say, dude, go watch this series because I think it has relatable things for you. Um, I was seeing different things and I was like, yeah, I get that. Based on the people who I know personally, I I get these things. I understand it. And the conversation at the park with with the kid, uh, I was like, I paid attention to the body language of Luke, and I was like, man, that just every small detail, Doug, you covered so well. His his stance, the way Luke was standing there by the fence, conversing with the kid in the park. What I was like, that I was like, that right there, you could tell he was troubled and he didn't really want to get into things and have a big conversation, but I felt like he felt like the kid wanted to talk, so he did, but he was standoffish. And it just that was one of the many things that I was like, you nailed that.
Okay.
I see my friends in that part of the episode, definitely.
Oh, well, I appreciate that. I mean, it was a thing that I wanted to, uh, I wasn't sure I was going to keep in, but it was a scene that I was trying to I was just, you know, sometimes as writers and as directors, you get fancy, too fancy. I was just I was trying to share that, the idea was that was a younger Luke, and there is an element of violence that men are always attracted to, and where young boys go from, where young boys start and where they end up.
Right.
But you can take that, you can take what you want from the scene, but that was the goal of it.
Yeah. I thought it was great. And I don't want to spoil it for Sage, but
Oh my gosh, you keep saying that before you say stuff.
I
I
know.
know, dude, you should have watched it beforehand.
Well,
So
I
I
was saving it
wasn't
so I wouldn't do what you're doing.
ah,
I watched some of the play stuff. I went on YouTube and I saw some of the recorded performances of the play. So now I'm really juiced up to be able to see that, from where you started with it to where it is currently.
Yeah, yeah.
So spoil away then, Rebel. Go ahead.
well, no, it was just another comment from that scene that I was just talking about.
My
And
bad.
the kiddo was like, yeah, my mom says she doesn't want me to play football. It's too violent. And I was like, I thought Luke just got your character Luke got the funniest look on his face, like, wow, if she thinks football's violent, she doesn't know much, right? So
Yeah. I mean, like what he says, well, I guess that's the fun of it, right?
yeah,
He tells him, and I guess that's the fun part,
yeah,
which is, I mean,
Yeah.
it is always the dangerous stuff is always the fun part. Unfortunately, life has a double edged. It's just life way of putting its own guardrails on us, because if all the dangerous, if all the dangerous stuff, if all the fun stuff wasn't dangerous in some way, then we would do it all the time, and then that would not be good for us as humans or as a
yeah.
species. So it kind
And
of,
it wouldn't be fun
yeah, there you go. It wouldn't be fun. Yeah,
if there wasn't a thrill to go along with it.
there you go.
So, do you have a season two in the works?
I do. I'm working on it. I'm starting to write it right now. And I'm going to try to tell, I don't know which side of the story I'm going to tell. Um, Either if it's going to be him finally going, well, I don't want to spoil anything, but I am working on it. I'm trying to flesh it out. I'm trying to flesh some plot points out and find which direction I want to go into, and hopefully raise some more money. That would be the goal.
Right.
To be able to raise.
Yeah.
That's always the thing when you and kudos to you for taking it as far as you are currently, and I'm sure it's going to continue. But that's always the rub is finding the money.
It is. It's the worst part of art. It really is, because unfortunately, and this has been true with artists since the beginning of time. You're always at the mercy of those who have the money. You're always asking for money, and it's I hate asking for money,
Yeah.
but you're always asking for money. You're always asking for money. So it is what it is. You try to get comfortable with it, but you go on with it, and you try to find people who believe in what you're trying to tell and what you're trying to share. Because art's not really no one's really going to make a buttload of money from this. So it's really, you're pulling on people's heartstrings to give money because they believe in what you want to do. And in this project, this project started very small. It was just going to be a small little idea. It was going to be like 1 or 2 episodes, and it just got bigger and bigger and bigger. And I remember when I finished shooting my last scene, my DP Robert, he said, I hope you just shot a feature film. And that wasn't the goal. The goal was just to shoot like a small little episodic series. And I go, yeah, I feel it. He goes, yeah, because you've got a lot of footage here, man. So, I hope I hope it can be used as I hope Landing Home can be used as just a vehicle for veterans or people who are not connected to the military to see as a launching pad to either to understand what's going on, or for vets to talk, or to get vets to talk by therapists using it. It's, I'm hoping, like the play, I hope it brings a level of healing. And I really do mean that sincerely. Like when I created the project, I wanted people to use it as, I don't want to say an educational piece of tool, but in many ways an educational piece of tool. I wanted people to be able to watch it and have an understanding. And as I remember, there was a therapist in Florida who saw my play, and she worked with vets, and she said, wow, she goes, now I understand why my vets have such a now I understand the point of view where my veterans are coming from. And I find that really interesting and really telling, and I found that, that there's probably a lot of people who are trying to help veterans who don't really have an understanding of what it is they're going through. Right? I mean, not in a insincere way, just not in a honest way. They just don't know what it is to have a movie play in your head that you can't really turn off, or what it is to be a family of 3 or 4 and then become a family of only 2 or 3. These are things that how can anybody understand it really without going through it? I mean, how can you say, someone loses a son, loses a daughter, loses a wife, husband, so be it. How can you say, oh, I can only imagine what you're going through. No, you really can't. You really can't imagine what I'm going through. And so I'm hoping that this series is something that gives people a reference to see so they can better help or understand, if that makes sense.
Oh,
Definitely.
the thing that, because I went, another thing I saw on your YouTube channel, back in, I think it was January, you did a cast with a veteran, and he was telling his story, and you were both talking about the play and the series, and you said something about doing the play in colleges, and how one of the responses you got from kids was, "I didn't know we were in so many wars."
Yeah.
That's
I mean,
unbelievable.
I wasn't all that surprised, but it blew my mind. And And really something like what you're doing is definitely something that the kids who said that, who made that comment, they need to see these things. They really need, they need to understand where they've come from to know where they're going
Yeah,
as Americans.
yeah, that's a great point, Sage. I mean, that's another layer to the onion that is very sincere and very honest. I mean, I sat at a restaurant and I had this friendly argument with a director of mine. I was performing in Stockton, California, and I was sharing that point of view. You know, so in fact, at that performance, I performed it at a theater. What was the theater? It was. I apologize, but I can't remember. But it was in association with a Navy veteran group who brought me there, and then we were using a college, and the college actually asked some of their, I think it's either some of the history students or art students to go see the play. And so about, I don't know, 15 of them saw it, and they were great. And there's one girl, that's when she said that, she goes, she was really moved emotionally. She goes, wow, you know, she goes, are you a veteran? And I said, no, I'm not a veteran. She goes, wow, you would think you would like be a veteran, you know, watching you on stage. And I just, this is amazing. You know, be honest with you, I never really knew that we had been in so many wars. And I was like, yep, we have. You know, she goes, it just makes me want to study more about our history and understand all the conflicts we've been in. And I said, yeah, you know, you should. And I would say, and I told her, you know, please, I was performing 3 nights there. And I said, you know, if you can, you know, ask more of your, you know, your students to come see, because I said, and I say this every time a young kid speaks up or when I can in the Q&A, I say, it's really your generation who really needs to see this. And I said, I hope you share it with your friends, because you guys are basically going to be our future leaders. So if you can understand what the price of war really is, then we'll be a little bit more judicious when we use that power. And so I went out to dinner with my director, and we kind of riffed on that moment. And I said, I bet you if you stand up right now and you ask 3 people, none of them will know when World War I took place. And she goes, no way. I said, I'll make you a bet. And so we bet dinner. And so she stood up, and I said, and ask somebody the Vietnam War. I want you to ask, I asked her to ask one of the 3 people, had to be young. And I said, if you asked a young person when the Vietnam War was, tell me what your answer was. So she stood up, she asked a young girl when World War I was, and they said, yeah, I think that was like when we went to Vietnam, right? And then same thing with someone said, I think confused World War I and World War II. And then the young person who she asked the Vietnam War was, she said, yeah, that was like our first World War, wasn't it? And I'm not even graduating. So she came back and she was blown. She was mind blown. She was like, wow. I go, you know, and I said, you know, not to go politically, but I said, that's really the problem with us right now, that we have no reference point. It's not being taught. We don't know where we come from, who we are as a nation, what it means to be an American, what the American story means, you know, what the sacrifices have been laid in front of us for so many generations to make today really, if you look back, you know, if you look back at the amount of death and destruction that we've gone through in, let's say, 150 years, pretty easy time to be alive in, you know, for the most part, you get, you know, you've got healthcare to a degree, you've got food in abundance. You're not really asked to go into anything really dangerous unless it's your own choosing. Military service is, there isn't a draft. It's you know, it's a volunteer force for the most part. You know, when you compare that to World War I, World War II, Vietnam, you know, Korea, you know, the generations that have laid in front of us have made it, you know, have made America, for the most part, a pretty badass place, you know. Yeah. And we lose track of that, and we don't know how we got that. And for many people, believe that it just became
right.
And that's not the reality of it. I mean, there's been, I know, and this sounds also cliche, but it's also very true. It's blood has been spilled to make this nation what I personally believe in, and many others believe in, the greatest nation on planet Earth. And that's going back to my dad. It's why people swim into America, not into Russia or anywhere else. Not that those nations are any worse, but you know, I mean, look at the border crisis we have right now.
Right.
You know, and I mean, like for most Americans, they don't really understand when you ask them. You know, people say, "Oh, California is falling apart and it's a crap hole," and immigration's out of control. I said, "Have you ever been to Oaxaca? Have you ever been to Oaxaca, Mexico? Have you ever been to East Africa? You know, these are places that are falling apart, and it for all the problems that we have, and let's say in Baja California, it is heaven compared to what is going on in Oaxaca.
Yeah.
And people don't have that reference point, right? So,
when I was a teenager, I grew up in Southern California. We occasionally would go to Tijuana and do what dumb American kids do over there. But it was never any question to me why they come. And you don't have to go but 20 feet past where that imaginary line is.
yeah.
You don't. I mean, I saw children selling me gum. I saw people who were making what little there was for them enough.
Yeah.
And so when it's a hard subject for me because I know why they come.
Yeah, I mean, it's not rocket science. I mean, it's not, it's they're coming from South Central America, really impoverished parts of Mexico, and I mean, they're doing what my parents are trying to do, and we can get into the legalities, how they're doing it and how we let them in. But the point that I'm trying to make is that why they're trying to come in here is because it's been spilled by blood by many generations, and many generations of different ethnicities. The American soldier, I try to portray an African American character. I play Hispanic character. I played women. I played men. I played different dialects. The American soldiers. What I try to, which is why now I'm trying to add the female character, combat vet, is it's a mosaic of what the American soldier is. I try to portray what the mosaic of the play is. The American soldier is all these peoples and families that have sacrificed to make what America is. It's not one ethnicity. It's not one race. It's not the Anglo race. It's not the Mexican race. It's not the African American race. It's all these people who are coming in. They were put on the uniform and they choose to go sacrifice, put their lives on hold. And when you look at the period of since America has been founded, they have been the glue that has kept this country together and has allowed it to prosper. And that was very true in First World War, and that was very true in the Second World War, and it is true in Vietnam. Not trying to say that Vietnam was the just war, but the men and women who fight together and who put their lives on hold, they are the glue and they are the arteries that have made this nation so vibrant, so beautiful, that people from Oaxaca, Mexico want to come here and they want a piece of it. They want a piece of that American pie.
Yeah.
So
the dream. Yeah.
Yeah, the dream. And I climbed Kilimanjaro about in 2012, and so you fly into what's the town? I forgot. But you fly into East Africa. Is it Nigeria? I forget, but or maybe it's Kilimanjaro. I can't remember. Sorry, it's been a while. But you fly into East Africa. You go from New York to Amsterdam. From Amsterdam, you go into East Africa. And let me tell you, when you're number one and you land a number 7, you know what number 1 is. Like when you come from running water, most Americans don't think about running water. Most Americans don't think about plumbing. We don't think about flicking on your lights. And I know there's exceptions and I get that. But for the most part, 95% of us don't think about water and electricity and the things that you just say you expect. If you didn't get, your mayor, your governor would be fired, basically.
Yeah. Or you're on the phone call to someone saying, hey, what the heck?
Yeah, what the heck? Hey, man, how come I don't have Wi-Fi? You know,
Right, right.
That
no, I
would
don't have
be me.
Wi-Fi. I
That
haven't
would
had
be
Wi-Fi
me.
in a whole hour. Get it up. You know, you get to East Africa and there's none of that. And man, it's like immediately, oh yeah, I'm not in America anymore. There's no running water. And not to say that there isn't in parts of East Africa, but when you land in the airport, you have not landed in a first world country. It is like immediate. Like you don't have to digest that. It's instantaneously. It's like going, from going from Manhattan to Oaxaca. You're not in Manhattan anymore. Once you get to Oaxaca, you're like, oh, this is Oaxaca, Mexico. And I know you're talking about, because when I was in college or in high school, I grew up in Houston. So we would go to South Padre Island and we go into Matamoros, and it was right on the border. And you would walk like 6 blocks past where all the American kid tourist area was, and you left that zone. Like now you were in Mexico. Like lights were hanging by bulbs hanging across the street.
Suddenly the streets disappeared. It was just like some dirt and some rocks. And
yeah. Crazy. You're like, man, 6 blocks back, there's like, all kinds of stuff that I still consider civilization. And now I'm in probably, third, fourth world type, part of the country. Conditions, so yeah. So anyhow.
Well, I mean, yeah, to just, say again, as far as that, I really agree that the people coming up, the new generation definitely need to see this so that they understand the things that, we're about the same age, I'm guessing, or close. From our generation and the generations before us, we understood that
that's 25, right?
Exactly. No, well, I've relent to 29 sometimes.
Okay, yeah.
But nothing good is easy, and we are someplace that is good, and definitely young folks need to understand that it's not easy. It doesn't, like you said earlier, it's not just here. It doesn't just happen.
No, it just doesn't happen, and I try to teach that to my son very clearly. And I think my son is be the exception of the rule, just because who his dad is. I mean, I hammer the point, of where we come from as a family, as a nation. I tell him all the time, the things that we have today are not because of what me and your mom have done, but are because of what my mom and our parents did. They gave us the opportunity that we have an easier platform to give you. And I always make that point to him, and I remind him, you were born with a lot of privileges, and I'm kind of hard on him about it. I say, you have to earn these privileges, and I remind him all the time. But my intention is to him to understand that life is work and life takes sacrifice, and that this is what really this nation is really built. And though right now it is popular to say the opposite, that's not what we believe in. And you're going to have to work hard in life. And a lot of times, what I love about the play is that, every character they're trying to find a way to get home, right? Either emotionally, physically, or psychologically. And they have challenges, which is, again, I think it runs parallel to the American story. And I think why the play has been so successful, because it reminds people, these are people that are really struggling, but they're finding their way. They're gritting it out, they're grinding it out. And I try to teach that, if you're willing to grind, you can do just not much you can't do, but to make sure you understand that you will have to grind. So probably a deeper conversation, but that's the play. And that's, obviously, when you write from, writers write what they know. As a famous director told me, we always write what we know. And that's what I know because of my background. And so I try to use the American story and the American veteran military's story of our nation to tell that story, that, we're hard workers. We like to grit it out. We're not perfect, but what we have laid in front, what the past generations have laid in front of us, it's really our responsibility to keep adding to it, not just to stand on it, to keep layering it and adding it. And so, but yeah.
And you know what? That's a great message. And I think unless you have anything else for Douglas, I think we're gonna leave it on that high note and great message. And if at this time, if you want to just replug where Landing Home can be seen and anything else, you got to go there. If you think shouting out to try and get some more money for the next season, you can do that here too.
Oh yeah. And thank you for coming on.
No, thank you for having me on. Thank you for having the opportunity. You can watch Landing Home currently on Amazon and Vimeo on demand. It will be on Apple, Google Play, and Vudu, I believe, really soon, probably in a couple months. But and if you follow me at Douglas Taurel, if you start following me either there on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook, I can hit you up for money later down the road. And if you follow me, I will hit you up for money. No.
And if you want to give Douglas some money, y'all, just hit him up.
Yeah.
I mean, don't be shy.
How's that for a pitch? If you want to follow me on Instagram so I can ask you for money, please do.
I'm thinking of, is it okay if I steal that? Can I borrow that?
Yeah. You should get thousands of followers on for that.
Right? We're not sending any money, but we might as well watch.
Yeah. No, I really appreciate it, guys. Anytime I get a chance to share the message and share the story of the play and TV series, it's always an opportunity. So thank you for letting me do it.
Absolutely.
Great. Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Talk to you soon. Thanks.
Talk to you soon.